All right, everyone, welcome back to, I guess, part one of this week's mailbag. Garrett, I didn't realize there was two parts this week, but Garrett said there is a part two coming later in the week. So, as you can see, it's just Snail and I tonight. Garrett is not in the general vicinity of a computer, I guess, so it'll just be me and Snail running the show tonight, and we are going to um, uh, jump over to Snail real quick, see how he's doing, catching up. It's been a little while before we get into the questions. So, Snail, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I was at work. I'm gonna go back to work after this podcast. Got a job kind of locally, so stopping in and we'll do this mailbag. And then no Penguins hockey, so kind of a bummer. But maybe this will be maybe there'll be some news coming out after this All Star break. Maybe a little movement, maybe a little shake up. You never know.
You do never know, and I believe there was a roster freeze over the All Star break, but that's just a few days if there is one. So um, we shouldn't have to wait too long about that. So jumping into the questions here, question one from Kim Larson. Remember, these questions are actually from last week. There was just so many questions that we had to split it up into actually three parts. But
Technically,
Kim,
part three mailbag.
yes, it's actually technically part three mailbag based on questions from the post on January 1st. So, question one from Kim, and I'll take this one real quick. Kim asked Pepsi or Coca-Cola, and then diet or normal. And for me, this is a pretty straight up, easy answer. It is Coke over Pepsi and always normal over any kind of diet. I do not understand the fascination with Diet Coke. I cannot stand the taste of diet soda. I can do a Coke Zero every once in a while, but a little different taste even in the normal Diet Coke. But always Coca-Cola over Pepsi. A hill I am more than willing to die on um, about that. So yeah, always Coca-Cola over Pepsi and always normal over diet. I cannot take diet soda.
Dude, diet sodas are so bad for you. Like, I know that soda, if you're drinking soda, you're not worried in that moment about health conscious decisions. I can agree with that. And I love myself a good soda, a good caffeinated beverage. But, like, I had a Coke Zero not that long ago. And, dude, that shit gave me, like, heart palpitations. It was the weirdest reaction ever.
Hmm.
I hated it. But an ice cold, crispy Coca Cola I'm honestly, I go back and forth. Okay. My rule for sodas would be, if I'm going fountain drink, I'm going Coca Cola all day. But if I'm cracking open a cold can, I'm probably going Pepsi. Honestly,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, everybody has their thoughts on that. I am strictly a Coca-Cola fan. A nice crispy Coke on especially on a warm day.
oh
To
yeah,
me, there's nothing better. So
dude, a cold Coke with some hot French fries is
yeah,
like, I mean,
very
that's
American. Very yeah,
very
absolutely.
American. It's good for a reason though. Like, there's something brain chemistry, sweet and salty. It's just good.
Well, it used to be made out of cocaine, so um,
There, yeah, that's very
yeah.
true.
But I digress. Question number two from Kim as well. This one's going over to Snail. If you could change three things in the drafting system slash rules, what would you change? You can choose whatever you like. For an example, Kim says the team finishing 24th in the league will get pick number one, so teams can't um, kind of tank to get last and get the number one overall pick.
I don't really know what their whole system really is because we've seen teams that are worse get lower draft. Yeah, we've seen teams that are better than the worst teams get higher draft picks, which I don't think is right. The one thing that I will bring up that I wish they would change, and especially because the NHL has a hard cap system, and because of COVID and everything, this was an something that I thought about that was brought to my attention more in recent years, and that is, I think teams that draft and develop really well should not be punished necessarily by drafting and developing well. And I'll explain a little bit more. So if you're a team, like, I'll look at, like, maybe like the like Toronto Maple Leafs or the Ottawa Senators, who have accumulated a lot of high draft picks and have drafted very well, and they have their records in the playoffs, or their wins losses history. Without looking at that, you need to pay, if they turn into stars, you have to pay them. And sometimes you lose some of these like to get high draft picks, you have to suffer. You have to be bad, right, Robbie? Like,
Yeah.
it, and then you accrue these good draft picks, and then you're hoping they take a team friendly type deal so you can sign everybody. But I think that they should implement something where if you're drafting and developing well, or not even if you're drafting and developing well, they should develop something where you can have one contract that is um like club control. It doesn't count for the cap. You get to keep one big contract off your actual cap books. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, that kind of ruins the point of a salary cap, though.
Yeah, it's only one player though. It's only one player, and it has to be a player that you drafted and developed yourself. It can't be a player you traded for. Like Jack Eichel in Las Vegas, that would not count. Had he stayed in Buffalo, if it's like a long time ago, Sidney Crosby, he took a really team friendly discount, 8.7. Um, you get to keep that biggest contract that you drafted and developed off the books, and then everything else cap compliant, whatever. That's what I would like to see. I know that owners or whatever, it'll probably never ever happen, but in my la land, I think that that's something that I wish could be implemented.
Interesting concept, that's for sure.
All right, Robbie, let's move on to question 3 here from our pal Kim Larson. And actually, this one I'll read. This is Garrett. Garrett sent us some answers, so I guess I'll just read Garrett's answer, and if we have any thoughts, we'll continue after. But Kim asks us here, which team will be the biggest player at the trade deadline? And Garrett says, I guess without thinking too much, my first picks were either Edmonton or Winnipeg. Edmonton has been blessed with talent through the draft, but McDavid and co. have yet to get over the hump. This legendary winning streak for me only bolsters the fact that they need to be all in this year. McDavid and Draisaitl are going to command lots of money on their next contracts. Pull that trigger now, or get McDavid out of Edmonton, a la Gretzky. Some potent words from Garrett.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have to think that Edmonton, the way they're playing, they're going to be all in. Winnipeg, um, yeah, it's going to be. I mean, any of these top teams, it's so wide open this year. You have to think there's going to be some very hard wheeling and dealing as we approach the deadline. So I think, obviously, Edmonton and Winnipeg are going to be there. I think you're going to see a lot of teams kind of pushing their chips into the center of the table because it's going to be a dogfight all the way into June to see who the last one standing is.
It's yeah, in the East, it's so wide open. It seems, doesn't it? Like in the Metro specifically, I don't think there's any clear favorites despite the standings.
No, no.
Um, so I wouldn't be surprised to see quite a bit of movement, and maybe not blockbuster movement, but tinkering around the edges. Wouldn't be really surprised to see that. A team that I immediately thought about, and then I Vancouver. Like this year's kind of like an albatross season for them. Like don't you think that this season was kind of unexpected, like the run they're
Oh
having?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe a lack of movement out of Vancouver. Like they're punching way above their weight. We'll see how the rest of the season unfolds. I think we've all kind of talked about a little bit. Will the shoe drop with Vancouver, and will they maybe regress to more of like a mean for what they should be? But they're still playing really well. Edmonton, I think I'm on board with Garrett. I think that you've got your future without McDavid or Draisaitl is bleak at best. Your window is already you're in your window right now. I would say Edmonton's probably in a place where they should maybe mortgage their future a bit to really secure maybe their back end. I know their goaltending has kind of been better as of late. Yeah, maybe Edmonton or what about those Kings, man? The Kings were like breaking
Yeah,
records. I wouldn't be surprised if they made some sort of big splash. I think they need a goalie.
yeah. Agreed.
All right, moving on here. Robbie, question number 4 for you here from Kim again. Who are the best 3 referees ever in the NHL? Are Bill McCreary and Kerry Fraser among those in your book?
Well, the easy answer here is they're all bad, right? I mean, we don't like refs. Nobody likes refs, but I mean, McCreary, one of the big names. Believe his last game was Game 7 of the '09 Finals where the Penguins won. Kerry Frazier, no helmet. legendary Paul Dvorsky, a legend. In today's game, guys like Kelly Sutherland has ref Stanley Cup Finals, Olympics, and all that. So as of who are the three best, I guess that all depends on who you ask. I don't really have many names here because I think the less you know referees' names, probably the better. So maybe it's not a great thing that we know Bill McCreary and Kerry Frazier just off the top of our heads, but it'd be all subjective, I guess, to who you would think are the best referees because again, they should be the kind of character in a game where we really don't know their names; they just do their job. But unfortunately, that is rarely the case when it comes to officials, not just in hockey but across sports.
Who's that one ref that's a character that's a veteran?
Wes McCauley.
Wes McCauley. And Kim, I got another name for you. I don't know if you're familiar with him, Robbie. Good Irishman. Dan O'Halloran.
Yep, I know Dan O'Halloran's name as well. Yep.
I'd throw his name in the hat too.
All right, question number 5 from Kim going over to Snell here. Would you like to see the Canada Cup be held again, maybe every 2 or 4 years?
Yeah, I would. More hockey, maybe a little off-season action, maybe summertime action. I forget, when did they host the Canada Cup?
Geez, I don't even know when the last Canada Cup was.
I mean, it was a long time ago. So, when hockey is pumping, especially when Canada is front and center, it's always going to be, I think, something hockey fans, it's a worthwhile watch for them. Short and simple for you, Kim. I would say absolutely. Let's get the Canada Cup going again, especially if the Olympics is going to be so finicky on and off. Let's see some best on best. Let's see some. I know maybe this is a little bit more of a hot take, but even if the NHLers aren't involved, let's get some more names out there. It's I remember like Bugsy Malone was like playing. I think he played in the Olympics or something, or he played in
probably. Yeah.
Let's get some guys out of retirement and get that like a pretty much like an NHL alumni like beer league game going with a gold medal involved or something. I'm all for it.
Yeah, the Canada Cup has not been contested since 1991, so we're going on over 34 about 33
32.
years.
I was born in 91.
Yeah, so 32, 33 years at this point. So, yeah, and that was played in late August, early September, probably leading right into training camp. So,
oh man, that'd be perfect. Yeah. I'm dying for hockey around that time. I would get up.
Most people are. Yep.
All right, Garrett, you want to take 6?
Garrett's not here, but obviously, so we'll answer this one for him. The question comes from Andreas Castle, another one of our friends from over in Europe. Which Penguins playoff series infuriates you the most? For Andreas, he says it's the 2012 Eastern Conference quarterfinals against the Flyers. When we tried to beat the Flyers at their own game, obviously didn't work. And Garrett's answer is, as a younger fan, it's the 2013 Eastern Conference Finals. All those acquisitions, guys like Jerome McGinley, Douglas Murray, Brendan Morrow. You also had Prime, Sid, and Gino with Letang. And maybe the Penguins don't beat Chicago that year, but they should have beaten Boston, and it would have been an electric Stanley Cup final against the Blackhawks. And I kind of agree with that too. 2012 definitely sticks on my mind. And as an older Penguins fan, I'll just toss in that 93, when they should have won 3 Stanley Cups in a row, always sticks out.
They lost to the Islanders, right?
Lost to the Islanders in Game 7 in the second round. A series they should have won going away, but they were upset, and they did not get 3 Stanley Cups in a row. But that's my 2 cents on that one.
I got one quickly. I'll chime in, and that was just a couple of years ago when they played the Rangers and got to overtime in Game 7, and Jacob Trouba was out there throwing his weight around. That one, I thought that team, despite the hate Hextall gets, I thought that team was built for a little bit of a run.
Absolutely agreed.
All righty, let's go to question number 7 here, going over to Robbie. From Kim again, all-time top 3 of best brothers in the NHL. Are the Sedins in?
The Sedins have to be. I mean, they're both Hall of Famers. They're going to be Hall of Famers someday. They each have won a Hart Trophy. They've each won scoring titles. Never a cup, got to a final. But yeah, they're absolutely in that conversation as well. I think you have to put the Stahl brothers in there too. Two of them have a Stanley Cup. Mark has a Stanley Cup final appearance. Two of them have been captains. Again, they never broke any kind of all-time scoring records, especially Mark. He was more of a defensive defenseman, but they have to be in there as well. Absolutely agree with that. The Sutters, Brandon Sutter, who played for the Penguins, half of his family has played in the NHL at one point or another. A bunch of brothers, one coach, or actually multiple coached. Um, uh, those names. Brent Sutter won a couple cups as a coach with the Kings, coached the Flames then a little bit. So the Sutters are in there as well. You don't see a ton of brother combinations, at least nowadays, but you definitely got to put the Sedins in there. I think they're just the scoring talent alone that they had puts them right near the top, if not the best brother duo, at least statistically in NHL history.
Just kind of the story too with how Berkey got
Yeah,
that deal done. Pretty
yeah.
interesting stuff as a
Yeah, if
hockey
you ever
fan.
have a chance, go on YouTube and see how all that was um, set up. That they both got to go to Vancouver. It's actually uh, gives you kind of pulls back the curtain on how the trade process works and the wheeling and dealing. It's something like that.
Have the Hughes brothers done enough yet?
Probably not. I mean, they're both. I mean, all or not both. All three of them. I mean, what's the oldest? Like 23. I need to see a few more years out of that. Maybe a Norris, maybe a Hart Trophy somewhere along the line. But no, let me see some more consistent play before we um, put them in that upper echelon of brothers in the NHL. Sticking with Kim for question 8 here, it's going over to Snail. Who is the purest goal scorer in the league right now?
As much as it pains me to give the Leafs any sort of shine, like I would have to say it's probably Austin Matthews. He's the halfway mark in the season. He's got 40 goals. I think right now, statistically, with Ovi kind of falling out of the just kind of his fall from grace recently. I mean, he's probably the next closest guy that trajectory wise could put even sniff around a Gretzky record. Um, I don't know. It's probably Austin Matthews. And I don't really know if it's even that close after that. Robbie, you got anybody that's a pure goal scorer right now that's just kind of having a year?
I would put David Pastrnak
Okay, yeah.
in that. I think Kucherov has to be in that conversation as well. Just what him and McKinnon are doing this year from a point standpoint is ridiculous. But Kucherov is about as pure a goal scorer as we've seen in the last decade. Pasternak has to be in that conversation. Matthews obviously in that conversation. And really, I mean, Ovechkin was that guy for 15 years, but obviously not this year. But yeah, if I had to go 3 right now, I'd say uh, Matthews, Pasternak, and Kucherov are probably my top 3, just based on pure goal scoring.
Yep, couldn't go wrong with any of those answers. All right, let's go to question 9 here. This would be going to Garrett. Brian asks, is the S silent or the C silent in the word scent? That's a hell
I
of a
don't. I
question.
mean,
This
yeah,
could be a
yeah.
roundtable discussion, Garrett says, but I say it's the C that's silent. The word begins with S, traditionally making that S sound. Also, looking at the spelling of sent, as in I sent the letter in the mail, no C there, and it's the same pronunciation.
Hey man, when I saw that question, I was just like, that is a wild question. But um,
But dude, the word like a penny, like a cent, is spelled cent, and it makes the same noise.
so does sent, like you send a letter, like he said. So again, that's the beauty of the English language. It's never easy. It's always complicated, and this is the kind of stuff that you had to put up with if you're a native English speaker. That's why it's one of the hardest to learn for non-native speakers because of a different all these words that are spelled different mean different things, but all sound the same. So yeah, I mean, I would say it's the C, but I don't know. All right, question 10 from Kim. I'll take this one to start. The top 5 best goalies of all times with over 500 games played. I guess this is Garrett. So we'll get to Garrett in a second, but this is my question first. For me, number one, always going to be Dominic Hasek. I just don't see. I know he doesn't have the top wins or anything like that, but just what he did to the game, he's kind of revolutionized the game in a way. And he played a style that nobody else will really ever be able to replicate. So Hasek's one for me. I go Waugh too, and that might be a little controversial just because Waugh introduced the butterfly style to the NHL. And again, that's butterfly is what you still see today. And he came into the league almost 40 years ago. 3, got to go Brodeur here. Brodeur admittedly benefited from a defensive first system, but credit where it's due. He's still somebody's got to stop the pucks that you do face. So you got to go Brodeur 3, especially as the winningest goaltender in history. 4, I have no problem with Luongo, just because I think he never really got the due that he deserved, but he's an all-time great. He's going to Hall of Fame as a result. One of the legends, and I hope that as a front office exec, he can at some point get a cup because that would be really, really cool for him. And my 5, man, we get down. I'm gonna go recent and might regret this. I'm gonna go Andre Vasilevsky. I mean, multiple Vezinas. Actually, no, I am gonna scratch Vasilevsky. He would be one of my outsiders, and I'm going to go with Henrik Lundqvist here. Again, a guy that never got a cup. He basically carried the Rangers to a cup in 2014 to the final, and just the LA that Kings team was just too good for that Rangers team. So that's my 5. I'll give Garrett's 5 here real quick before jumping over to Snail. But Garrett goes in order here: Brodeur, Waugh, Hasek, Luongo, and Carey Price are his top 5.
Not hard. It's hard to argue any of those. I'm probably the same as you, Robbie, with yours. I'm probably going Hasek. I'd probably go Brodeur and Waugh, like 2 and 3 interchangeable. Honestly, for me, I probably had Bobby Lou on my fringe, which I know that I don't know, just a great goalie or whatever. I'm not hating. I had uh, Henrik Lundqvist, and then I had uh, Marc Andre Fleury, and that's Homer, I guess. I don't know. He's a legend. So a few cups to his name, first overall pick. Um, that's probably like my personal list there.
All right. Question number 11 then. Jumping back over to Brian here for Snail. Thoughts on all these players being granted a leave of absence over the last week?
I thought it was super silly in a way that the teams went about it. I don't know if you would agree, Robbie, but we kind of all knew what it was for, but the teams were not being transparent.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the news came out today that the 4 NHLers were or will be charged with um, uh,
Sexual assault.
sexual, at least one count of sexual assault. The NHLers were Cal Foote, uh, Carter Hart, Dylan Dubé, and
Alex Formenton.
Alex Form. No, he was the guy that plays outside of the league,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
in Europe, and he came back to Canada. But very, yeah, like it all happened in basically the same day. Um, yeah, so I guess we'll see how it all plays out. But some very odd statements were released by the team, and I mean, it was pretty obvious what was happening when all five of these guys um, announced this within like 12 hours of each other. So we'll all see how it plays out, but certainly a very bizarre um, day that was when those that news started coming
I
out.
I don't really have too many thoughts on it, Brian. But just to be totally fair, I was talking about this with a buddy of mine, and I just thought that it was like the NHL has wanted to change their culture regarding this. That's with the Chicago Blackhawks scandal, etc. And I thought this was an opportunity for them to be totally transparent and kind of make a little bit of a step forward in changing the culture around this. But they went right back to the well being secretive. And I just thought I thought that they missed an opportunity there, and it showed me that I mean, I understand having respect for some of these players. Some of these players might be innocent. Like no one's guilty yet. Like they're gonna figure it out. It seems like it's gonna be a lengthy trial. I think it's not gonna even happen till 2026. Robbie, do
Oh,
these
geez.
players play? Can they play until then?
I cannot imagine that you will see them on an NHL roster, um, or at least not on. They'll be on a roster, I guess, technically, but not on the ice anytime unless something happens between now and that trial. I would be shocked if we see them on the ice.
Because Carter Hart's like in the midst. He's on. The Flyers are in the playoffs right now, technically.
Yeah, yeah, and he's due for a new contract this summer as well.
That's
So
right. What happens to
uh,
their contracts and all
I
that?
don't know how what the CBA rules stipulate on that. If there's some kind of list they can be put on, I don't know how all that works. I guess we'll find out here um, once the charges come, and we'll see what the teams decide to do.
Yeah, it'll all roll out slowly, and it's a this happened a long time ago, but it's coming back to rear its head, and I guess we'll probably there's going to be a lot more coming out regarding this in the future, and
Yeah,
I'm assuming we'll get questions and talk about it more.
yeah.
All right, let's go here to another question that would be for Garrett. I'll read his answer quick and then see if Robbie's got anything he wants to chime in. Question 12 from Brian. Should Pooley and Pulju, and he means Sam Poulin or Jesse Puljujärvi, be called up and given a chance to help the big club? Garrett says, I think they're going to take the slow and steady route with Puljujärvi just because of the severity of his injury and recovery, but I think both Poulin and Puljujärvi are vastly more interesting than Jansen, Harkins, Colin White, etc. Robbie, what do we think about that?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that Jesse Puljujärvi is going to be on this team at some point. The way he's playing in the AHL, um, he's been very impressive. He's scoring on the power play at 5-on-5, and it seems like he is going to be on this on the NHL team at some point. When that is exactly, I don't know. I believe there is um, a deadline that he'd have to be on an NHL roster if he'd want to play in the playoffs. I don't believe that's until at the trade deadline or maybe like a week after or something like that. But I definitely think that he's going to um, be on this team at some point in the near future. As for Sam Poulin, I think he's definitely earned at least a call up, and I definitely think we'll see him here after the break at some point.
Yeah, I'd like to see that Sam Poulin. I saw he had a Gordie Howe hat trick the other night,
He did,
and
yeah.
showing some heart out there. It hasn't been the easiest go for Sam Poulin in the minors. He's had assistance in the program. He's had some injury issues. I think he kind of was drafted as more of like a late first round kind of skill guy, and he's kind of molded into a very defensively sound, kind of a gritty little centerman. Maybe like cut from a similar cloth as like a Bluger. If you all are familiar with the Teddy Bluger, probably a little bit more offensively gifted than him. I wouldn't mind seeing him get called up. That fourth line, I don't think anyone's job is safe on that fourth line. Achari
Mm-mm.
hasn't exactly been blowing me away with what he was supposed to bring to this team. Carter, we all know that he could be out of the lineup on any given night. That left wing spot since Nieto went down with an injury, it's been up for grabs. I like Colin White. Contrary to Garrett's comments. Colin White, the Florida Panthers had no problem. He played like 60 plus games for the Panthers on a team that went all the way to the Stanley Cup final last year. I like what Colin White can bring to the bottom six. He can play a little net front, so I'd be down with Brick giving Sam Poulin a shot, an extended, maybe a little extended look, and I think it's a no brainer that Puljujärvi they signed him to that AHL contract because they were maybe seeing something out of him with his recovery. And I think he'd be a great slot in the third line right wing if they don't go out and make any moves. If Kessel isn't waiting to sign in Pittsburgh, for example, which I don't think he is. I think, we'll, like you said, we'll see Puljujärvi here eventually. Let's see here. Question 13. This is the last question for the part 3 mailbag here, going over to Rob. Brian asks, the Strip District is adding a Shake Shack. Has Garrett or Robbie ever had it? And if not, he recommends it.
I have not been to a Shake Shack. Garrett did not answer this part of the question, so I cannot say for him. I have not, but if I am in the area and it's open, I will maybe have to give it a shot. I've heard good things about it. Brian seems to agree with that. So other than that, I do not. I've never been there, but I'm not against trying it if ever given the chance.
Is that the place that has the Jake Shake when he scores?
No, that's the Milkshake Factory. That's been around forever.
Oh, okay. Shake Shack, Milkshake Factory. I don't even know what a Shake Shack is, so.
Yeah, it's a Sonic type establishment, I believe.
Right on. Where's the Strip District?
It's kind of more downtown than it's probably. Oh man, it's a decent. It's not a decent hike. It's a couple blocks from um, the Penguins Arena. It's like right on the river. So it's probably closer to like where the Steelers play than when the Penguins play, but it's kind of downtown. But it's a very, very ethnic and cultural part of town where a lot of like immigrants and stuff live back in prior to the early 1900s when they all came over and where they established communities and stuff.
Oh, right on. Now they got a Shake Shack.
Yep.
All right, well, I think that does it. Rob, you got any closing thoughts on Mailbag Part 3?
I do not. I guess we have nothing really to talk about the rest of the week because the Penguins are off. I guess we could talk about the All-Star game if anybody cares enough about that. Crosby will be there. It's in Toronto, so expect a lot of knob slobbing about Toronto and hockey in Canada. But, I mean, other than that, Penguins.
Do you watch the All-Star? You watch the All-Star game?
No, I haven't really tuned into an All-Star game. I watch the skills because I always thought the skills competition was really exciting, even when I was younger. But as for the All-Star game itself, there's nothing going on this Sunday, so I might put it on for background noise, but it won't be appointment television or anything like that.
Yeah, I love the skills competition, even when it's corny. I don't know. It's always, you always see something impressive. I always love seeing the hardest shot, the accuracy shooting, etc. So probably not going to watch the actual All-Star game, but love to check out the skills. Well, I think that's it from the Skating Penguin Network. For Robbie Noggle, I am Snail. This has been a blast. We will talk to you all Friday? Thursday?
I don't know. Garrett mentioned about doing it Friday. I cannot do an episode Friday.
Okay.
There's like 35 questions in this week's mailbag, so I don't know if maybe I don't know. We'll talk about that in the group chat. So if this is the only episode you guys get this week,
thanks for listening.
You enjoy it. Yeah, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoy it. No recaps this week, but maybe we'll surprise you with a second episode. So, Snail, I'll let you wrap it up.
Yep, like I said, for Robbie, I'm Snail. We'll talk to you soon.